shut up and tell me what to put on my lawn. Terrific. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is JJ Tipton. I'm a licensed fertilizer applicator and pesticide applicator in the state of Maryland. Today is step 4 of my annual maintenance plan for lawns, and we are going to be putting down some slow release nitrogen fertilizer on this yard. I hurt my back a little while ago, so I am filming from the office here, and then I will just be overlaying it with some footage from me mowing and putting down that fertilizer. In addition to that application of fertilizer, I'm going to be talking about the most common problems you're going to have with a cool season lawn during the summer. Here in Maryland, we are smack dab in the middle transition zone, and these summers can absolutely be brutal on our fescue, Kentucky bluegrass, and ryegrass lawns. What time is it? The most common issues I see for cool season grass lawns during the summer are heat stress, drought stress, summer weeds, disease pressure, and then finally grubs and other insects. For this video, I'm going to approach each of these 5 topics from 2 control angles. One being cultural controls, which is how you maximize your turf's health and minimize pest issues in just the way you take care of and manage your lawn, as well as chemical controls, which is everybody's favorite, just shut up and tell me what to put on my lawn. Terrific. All right, let's talk about heat stress. Now, take a look at my lawn here. The grass under the tree is doing so much better than the grass that is in the full sun. Why? Because it is cooler under the tree than it is in the full sun. Very obvious. Some people don't fully understand that as our air temperatures and soil temperatures reach about the mid 80s, our cool season lawns are going to check out. It doesn't matter how much you water, the cool season lawns cannot handle temperatures above 85, 86 degrees for extended periods of time. This doesn't mean that they're dying, it just means they're going dormant. What cultural controls can we implement to help combat heat stress? Not much, but we can plant grass that's appropriate for where we live. The most heat tolerant cool season grass type is turf type tall fescue, and it's not even close. If you're planning a fall lawn renovation and you need a grass that is heat tolerant, go with fescue. Don't go with a blend, don't go with anything rye, just straight fescue. Mow as tall as you can handle it. Yeah, I get it, it's hard to kick a soccer ball in 4-inch tall fescue. The taller you mow, the more shade your grass is going to create on the soil, and that's going to help cool down those soil temperatures. Another tip is follow the 1/3 rule all season long. The reason why everybody tells you to only cut 1/3 of your grass blade off at a time is because if you cut more than that off at any one time, it is going to stunt your grass's growth. It means it's going to go into shock and it's going to recover rather than continue to grow. And not just vertically, but also the roots down into the soil. And the deeper the roots, the cooler they are and the more water they can access. And that will also help to combat heat stress. Chemical controls to help combat heat stress: fertilize very lightly in the spring. If you follow my program, then you're only doing about a ½ pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. That's about half the rate if you would follow the bag rate from the store, just grabbing a bag of fertilizer that treats 5,000 square feet and putting it down across 5,000 square feet. Why are we backing off on the fertilizer in the spring? Because your grass doesn't need fertilizer to grow. It needs water and it needs sunlight. Putting that nitrogen down is going to make your grass use up all of those sugars and carbohydrates that it's created through photosynthesis. And when it gets to summer, it's not going to have anything in reserve. It's not going to have anything to spend or eat or grow with. And you're not going to be able to create any more of those because now it's going to start shutting down, going dormant, going into survival mode. Another supplement that you could put down is a fertilizer that is high in potassium. The fertilizer I'm using in this video is going to be a 10-0-20. Put it down at a rate of 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. That's not a lot of nitrogen, but it's a lot of potassium. Drought stress, plain and simple. In the summer here, it does not rain as often as we would like. Cultural controls to help combat drought stress are: water your lawn. Your turf needs about 3/4 of an inch to an inch of water per week. The best way to get that is in 1 to 2 heavy waterings a week. If it rains, then that counts towards that 3/4 to 1 inch of total rainfall. You need to water your lawn during the summer? No. If you're going to have multiple weeks of no rain, yes, you should get out there and water your lawn. But for established lawns, especially fescue lawns, those roots are going to be deep enough that it will be able to survive extended periods of drought with no real issues. Mow tall. The loss of water from your lawn is called evapotranspiration, and that is a measurement of the water not only being lost through the grass blades, transpiration, but also through the soil, evaporation. Mowing taller is going to limit that water loss as much as physically possible. Little Timmy needs to get those knees up, come on. Mulch your clippings. This is also going to help prevent that evapotranspiration from occurring. Chemical controls. Not a lot of chemical controls to help prevent drought stress. One thing I do recommend, and I made a video on this, is the addition of a surfactant that you can put down. I did a video last year in the form of dish soap. I put about 5 to 6 ounces per 1,000 square feet of dish soap sprayed over the ground. This is going to help the water get into the soil deeper, especially if you got dried out soil and you're trying to take advantage of a little rainfall coming up in the future. They also make wetting agents as well as products like Hydrogen, which will help retain water in the soil. But the best thing you can really do is just making sure that you are watering effectively. A lot of these wetting agents and moisture management products are really expensive. My next application in this lawn care series is an application of Carbon Pro, which is going to help to retain some of that moisture. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not sponsored by it in any way or anything else for that matter. So I just like the product. Summer weeds. For cool season lawns, in the summer I see mainly 2 weeds that crop up. It's going to be spurge and it's going to be crabgrass. There's going to be other weeds here and there, but those are the 2 main culprits, and those are the ones that are going to interfere with your seeding project come the fall. For culture controls, I'm beating a dead horse here, but mow tall, follow the 1/3 rule, mulch your clippings. It's really hard for these weeds to get a foothold if they are trying to fight for sunlight. If you have dense, thick turf mowed at 4 inches, those little budding weeds are going to have a really tough time establishing themselves. Mowing at 2 inches, if it's a lot easier for those weeds to get a foothold, to get enough sunlight, and then to create enough growth so that they can establish themselves in your lawn. Also, if you're not mowing often enough, you let your grass grow way out and then cut it way back, it's going to stunt its growth. It's not going to stay as dense, and those weeds are also going to get a huge foothold as well. Another tip that a lot of people sleep on is watering appropriately. Now, this is something that when people talk about disease, they talk about watering, but the wetter you keep your lawn, if it's constantly wet, then those weed seeds that are in your yard, and yes, there are millions of them, have a better chance to germinate. You need to keep your grass seed wet when you're renovating your lawn. Weed seeds are the exact same thing. So if you're watering appropriately, which means water once and early in the week, let the water percolate through, the soil is going to dry out, and then water again. Those weed seeds aren't going to have enough moisture consistently to germinate and to grow. Meanwhile, your healthy grass with dense, thick, deep roots are going to be just fine. Chemical controls for summer weeds. The best way to manage your summer weeds was to apply pre-emergent back in February, March, April, that time frame. But if you're watching this video trying to get some corrective actions down, then we can talk about spraying for weeds. There are 2 different types of weeds. There's grassy weeds like crabgrass, which are just kind of like turf. And then there are broadleaf weeds like spurge, clover, dead nettle, things like that, that have little leaves, little tiny plants. The only thing I will say is that the active ingredients that treat crabgrass are probably not going to be as effective as treating broadleaf weeds, and vice versa. Quinclorac is my #1 recommendation to people who are trying to kill crabgrass in their yard. Products like 2,4-D, dicamba, triclopyr, those are great products to treat broadleaf weeds. The last thing I'll say about weeds is nutsedge. Sedges are kind of their own type of weeds, and the 2 products I recommend for those are sulfentrazone and halosulfuron, which is the active ingredient in sedgehammer. Let's talk about disease pressure. Okay, first things first, let's cut to me removing this mushroom here in my lawn. 99% of the mushrooms that grow in your yard are not a big deal at all. Either glove up and pull it out, or take your favorite short iron and work on whatever swing thought you have rattling around that week. Either way, these mushrooms are not really a problem. This mushroom is just the fruit from the actual spores of fungus that are living in your soil. As long as it's not wrecking your lawn, it's not that big of a deal. Also, really none of these are edible, so stop Googling that. They're not going to get you high, they're just going to make you sick. Cultural controls for disease. Now, fungus is always present, or lawn is always present. The only thing that has changed from the spring to the summer is the conditions that allow fungus to thrive. They love the dew on the ground, and they love the warm summer nights above 70 degrees. It's like heat stress, we can't really cool it down, but we can seed grasses when we're seeding that will help resist diseases like brown patch and dollar spot. A lot of seeding blends have ryegrass in them for a quick germination. Ryegrass germinates as little as like 4 days, but ryegrass is really not very disease tolerant. In fact, a lot of extension offices don't recommend ryegrass and fescue blends, especially in the transition zone, because that ryegrass is going to be really susceptible to red thread, and you're just going to have big issues come next summer. So I would look at a 100% fescue blend, and if you're dead set in having Kentucky bluegrass in your yard, then I would still also try to avoid mixes with ryegrass. If you look at my yard here, the center track is a bunch of non-fescue grasses that I've had in my yard since I moved in. I have not completely killed this yard off. I am just going with what I had, and I overseed it every once in a while. So this is what it looks like now, but this is what it looked like after the summer last year, when it looked very similar, struggling with fungus. So it will recover, so I wouldn't stress too much about it. If you do have to overseed, remember, use those correct grass types. Another cultural control, always follow the 1/3 rule. You want your grass to be actively growing and as strong as it possibly can be. Chemical controls for fungus. For as many lawn diseases as there are probably as many fungicides to treat them. You need to know what you're treating. Is it brown patch? Is it dollar spot? Is it leaf spot? Do you know how to tell the difference between the 3 of those? If you have a repeated problem with fungus every year and you are following all of your cultural practices, then yes, you could apply a preventative fungicide, and prevention is actually better than curative. Before you put it down though, I would look to see what the interval is to put down the next application, and I would also know which fungicide that you're going to be rotating to, because you don't want the current fungus that is going to be in your lawn getting resistance to the fungicide that you're putting down. So if you're going to put down azoxystrobin to try to prevent brown patch, then you should also be looking into other fungicides that you can rotate off of azoxystrobin to make sure that you are not building that resistant brown patch. You can't put fungicides down over and over again like you do fertilizer. Let's talk about grubs and lawn insects. Cultural controls for grubs and other insects. Grubs love irrigated turf. They love consistently wet turf, and they're definitely going to want to burrow into your yard if you water it constantly versus your neighbor's yard, which they're letting go dormant and not water. Furthermore, as I've said in other videos, your lawn can tolerate more than 0 amount of grubs, about 5 to 7 grubs per square foot to be exact. Growing dense turf with deep roots is going to be your best cultural control from grubs and other insects, and you know how to do that. Chemical controls for grubs and other insects. If your lawn is turning brown and you don't know why, give it a tug. There's 3 options. 1, it is firmly in there. In that case, if it's brown and it's not pulling out, then it's just dormant and it's alive and you're fine. Second, if it is pulling out but it's just the blades of grass coming off, then that's probably some summer die-off. You could have a fungus issue, but I wouldn't be too worried, because as long as the crown of the plant is still intact, you're probably going to get some pretty good grow back once we get better conditions in the fall, as we get more water in the form of rain and we get cooler temperatures. 3, if it is coming up in clumps, if you're getting bits of the soil, if it's coming up kind of like carpet where you can pull it back, then that is indicative of a grub issue. What I would do is I would move to where there is a transition between brown grass dead brown grass and living green grass, and I would dig in that transition. The turf is pulling up like a carpet. You're going to see the grubs eating the roots of the living grass, and it's going to keep migrating over and eating those roots. The best way to deal with grubs is prevent them. I have a video on how to and if you should be putting down grub preventative earlier in the year. But if you are at this point and you have a grub issue and you didn't put down preventative, or if you have a grub issue anyway and you did put it down, then you need to be putting down the curative kill in 24 hours product, not the preventative, because you're not going to get very good results putting down the preventative. You need to get rid of those grubs now to save your turf, and you're probably still going to have to reseed because that turf, the root structure is gone, and it's probably not going to survive the rest of the summer. Finally, the whole point of the video, fertilizing in the summer. Should you fertilize this summer? Yes, I endorse it. However, you need to be very particular in how you do it. Here's how I do it. My lawn and my customer's lawn, I put down a 10-0-20 at 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet. If you could do the math in that, that means I'm putting down a half a pound of nitrogen, that first number, and I'm putting a full pound down of potassium, that third number. The game changer for this fertilizer, though, is that it's 65% slow release, which means that it's going to feed very gently and slowly throughout the entire summer. You're not going to see a huge green up when we put this down, nor do we really want to. Your lawn is running a marathon when it is going through the summer. It is at mile 18 right now, and putting a heavy dose of nitrogen down on a lawn that is struggling with heat and drought stress is like giving a marathoner a plate of pancakes. One bite, they're going to throw the rest of it on the ground, it's going to be wasted, and then they're not going to feel good either throughout the rest of the journey, and they're not going to have enough energy to finish. Low release fertilizer is like sipping on one of those high-speed energy gels that you can get at REI or whatever, and as the grass checks in and out of dormancy, it can take the nutrients it needs, but then the rest of the nutrients are still going to be there. Those high shot, quick release fertilizers, if they're not being used, then they're just going to be wasted in the soil, and they're not, that's not good for anybody. I have multiple recommendations for fertilizing in the summer for the homeowner. One, get a specialty fertilizer like I have. This one's from Lesco, the 10-0-20 slow release, fantastic product. Can't recommend it highly enough. It also has high in iron. The second product, Milorganite. Everybody loves to talk about Milorganite, but it really is idiot proof. Yes, even you. And you could put it down. I would honestly recommend putting it down at like a half rate. So that's one bag, covers 5,000 square feet versus the normal 2,500. Again, we're going to push growth in the fall. This is just to kind of help maintain our grass. If you don't have access to any of those fertilizers, then you could do one of two things. One, get a regular bag of fertilizer. One bag equals 5,000 square feet, that kind of nonsense. And then only put down half the bag at a lower spreader rate. Only use half the bag for what it calls for on a cool day or like a cool stretch of time, and that would be great. And then you can spoon feed it. Or what you can do, and this is probably the best option for those of you who don't have access to those, is get some liquid fertilizer that you spray out and then use it at a half rate as well. So if like one bottle of liquid fertilizer, the lower the first number the better, treats 1,000 square feet, spray it over 2,000. If it treats 2,500, spray it over 5,000, and then water it in really heavily. You're gonna get a little bit of a green up, you're gonna get those nutrients, but you're not gonna overwhelm your grass, and you're not gonna waste your money either on nitrogen that's just gonna be lost to the soil again because your dormant grass isn't gonna use it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Remember, everyone's lawns are struggling right now. If you're seeing pictures on social media of someone's perfectly manicured lawn and it's the middle of August, it is either a warm season lawn or it is a ryegrass lawn up somewhere where they use a snow shovel more than a lawnmower. So do not stress, don't freak out. This is just the natural process. Things are going to be great once September and October comes around. Until then, my name is JJ, and this is the Lawn Lab.